Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. Today I'm joined by a fellow YouTuber known as AceMonkey. He's slowly gaining on 600 subscribers, so go and check out his channel if you're interested. So here's an introduction from the man himself.
Hey everyone, I'm AceMonkey, and like Triforce, I'm a big Zelda fan, and I'm just glad to be here on the channel.
Well then, with all of that out of the way, we should probably discuss the title of the video. Aonuma himself stated after E3 2019, the event I've racked my mind around for hours in the past year and a bit, that one of the reasons we wanted to create a continuation was because I wanted to revisit that Hyrule again and use that world again, while incorporating new gameplay and new story. This clearly implies that in the next Zelda game, the direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, we could see the exact same map reused. In fact, the thought of the game not using the first game's map at all hasn't even crossed my mind. The only possibility I've discussed in my videos is if we could see the map from the first game reused. So with that in mind, me and Ace have been coming up with certain ways in which the map could have changed in possibly the most anticipated sequel in Zelda history. First of all, let's talk about the most obvious category of map changes. This is a change that we can see in part of the Breath of the Wild 2 teaser trailer. It seems that man-made structures have been made to replace ruins that once laid there in the first game. So what exactly does all of this mean in terms of how a slightly different map could truly feel unique? Well, if ruins seem to be popping up as newly constructed buildings in the trailer to the newest game, surely that means that we could see most, if not all, ruins seen in Breath of the Wild reimagined and stripped into amazing houses and other landmarks for Hylians. Speaking of Hylian landmarks, which area screams Hylian landmark more than the birthplace of most Hylians themselves? Castletown. Through the eyes of the Creating a Champion book, us theorists have seen and drawn over, we've seen a concept art of a seemingly giant Castletown, one to rival the likes of even Twilight Princess's Castletown. It seems to be a sprawling area with Hylians being easy to spot and structures being somehow even easier to find, fitted with blue roofs. In fact, this Castletown can actually be seen in the base game of Breath of the Wild. It actually took me a while to even remember the cutscene that shows a mid-apocalyptic Castletown. Guardians are shown throwing themselves around the broken town before leaving it to be only a desolate wasteland. This wasteland can be seen in Breath of the Wild, and it really is eerie when you first venture through the area guarding Hyrule Castle. But enough on Castletown itself, let's talk about some of the other areas that surround Castletown. Namely, let's talk about some other things we saw in the trailer, the lifting of the castle. If the lifting of the castle turns out to be an even bigger event than we can even interpret right now, then we could even see the newest Castletown taken out of our graphs sometime in the middle of the story. We've seen in many past Zelda games that the map or story normally makes a dramatic change somewhere in the middle. For example, Ocarina of Time sees you able to see a new Castletown 7 years after Link grabs the Master Sword. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess's story took dramatic changes around the midpoint of the story as well. So I think it's not out of the question that we could see a demolished and rebuilt Castletown in the same game. So who knows?
In Breath of the Wild, some of the main structures that were seen throughout most of the land of Hyrule were the Sheikah Towers and the Sheikah Shrines. Now, going off the quick glance of the Hyrule that we saw in the Breath of the Wild 2 teaser trailer, we can see that Sheikah Towers are gone. With no Sheikah Towers, it is safe to say that there are no Sheikah Shrines either, which makes perfect sense. The purpose of these locations were to help and prepare the hero in his fight against Calamity Ganon. So now that they have served their purpose, they are no longer needed. In Breath of the Wild, the Sheikah Towers were important as they would register the topography of the land and the names of the different locations directly into your Sheikah slate. Now, with the Sheikah Towers not being in the game anymore, it would only make sense that the Sheikah slate would also become obsolete, so basically also removed from the game. Now that raises the question as to how a map of the land is going to be acquired. Well, as Triforce mentioned, with the defeat of Ganon, towns and landmarks seem to have been reconstructed and now full of life. If this is the case, I could see a person or a group of people being tasked to remap Hyrule in its entirety, since Hyrule is now free of monsters. Well, free of monsters for a moment, since we see that Ganondorf's return is imminent. So while these cartographers are on their journey of remapping the land, they are forced to stay in the region of Hyrule due to Ganondorf's uprising. So to acquire these maps of the regions, we need to find these individuals that are scattered across the land. And when we do find them, we also find out from these cartographers that Hyrule has been hiding a secret deep beneath its surface, which Triforce will tell you much more about.
Everyone and their mother seems to think that the next game could have a map or at least an area dedicated to some sort of underground section. In fact, many people seem to think that the dungeons that we could see in the next game could be subterranean, seen underneath Hyrule, meaning that we could play in areas similar to those seen in the teaser trailer in the next game. I'm terribly sorry for discussing the teaser so much, we don't really have a ton to go off of. If the possibility of a full underground system is seen and realised by the Zelda team, then that means that we could see the overworld of Breath of the Wild completely ruled over by Ganondorf himself, especially if his floating castle is really that intimidating to the inhabitants of Hyrule's lands. I've actually discussed this in an older video, but I'll do a small recap. If this Ganondorf does rule over the overworld, leaving the Hylians in the underworld to cower in fear, then we could see the Hylians push back and wage war on monsters, Yiga members and other horrifying freaks of nature to gain their lands back. This could mean that for once in the Legend of Zelda series, we wouldn't see the hero doing all of the dirty work himself, and the teaser itself actually shows that we may not see this with the inclusion of the Princess of Wilds, Zelda. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, the underground. The underground could be an area that is a complete contrary to the overworld, similar in lighting to that of Twilight Princess's Twilight areas. These dark areas could house terrifying areas, but anyway, onto the outro. Any last words you'd like the viewers to know before I send you back to the Shadow Realm, Ace?
Well, first off, it was great working with you. It was fun discussing all these ideas. We also worked on a video discussing the musical changes that could be seen in Breath of the Wild 2, which can be found in my channel, and it's also linked in the description. So be sure to check it out. Thank you again for having me, Triforce. I am definitely looking forward to working with you again in the future.
Thanks so much for being on the channel, and I'm sure you'll see us do more videos on the channel in the future, so go and check out his channel in the description. With that said, please go and check out my social media accounts on screen right now, and join my Discord seen on my pinned tweet if you wish to talk to other people who like discussing Zelda, including myself. I also have a Patreon, so if you'd like to or can support me in any sort of financial way, then the link is in the description. For the record, I would really appreciate it more than anything in the world. And finally, I thank you all so much for watching. Please like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more weekly Zelda content. I hope you're all really doing well, stay safe, and I'll see you all next week.